I will have to send you this
Okay.
email.
I have an introduction letter that I was planning on sending out, just kind of like, here's our office hours, here's our location,
Okay.
here's what email payments, that kind of stuff, just
Oh,
general
yeah.
stuff. I could put something on there if you have sort of a return thing. I could actually provide a return envelope. If you have deferred maintenance at your home or something that needs to be taken care of,
Oh, yeah, sure.
let me know. That way I can get a fairly extensive
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
That's good.
It'll work. Also go in, I
Don't
think we'll have our
have
letter.
Can we
We have
erase
our
that?
letter, right?
We erase that?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Can I put your name?
You have to? Prefer to be
Well,
anonymous.
I think we'll need some alcohol.
Uh-oh, somebody put it out with the wrong kind of,
There wasn't maintenance for the
How about we just
whiteboard.
put ours?
it doesn't erase.
Yeah, it wasn't raised.
Did they do that?
I mean, you don't want to close that off. Okay.
Are we expecting everything?
Was that all the board? Yes, all the board is supposed to come.
Should we ask if anyone has any written request or service
Sure,
calls?
do that. This is what we're waiting.
I mean, does anybody has any written requests as we wrote on the boards?
Maintenance
We are just-
issues?
Maintenance issues that you haven't addressed to this board already? ¿Algún problema que tengan de service calls de mantenimiento en sus casas que no me lo han dado oficialmente a mí o a ninguno de los miembros del board?
No es necesariamente en mi apartamento, pero quisiera en el laundry room,
Laundry room, ¿de qué? What is
el 3700,
Ajá.
lo han dejado ahí hoyos, parece que cambiaron cañerías.
Ajá.
Por favor, si lo...
What, the pipes? They
Yo creo
changed
que cambiaron, pero lo dejaron hoyos ahí.
hoyos?
Sí.
Oh, okay, there are
Holes,
some
they have
holes, they
holes,
changed
yes.
some
They
kind
have
of
holes in
plumbing
the laundry room.
in the laundry room, 3700.
In the storeroom, in the storeroom,
Storage room?
yes.
No es el laundry room,
No.
el storage room.
And the laundry room is the, you know, the floor is smelling very bad. I don't know if the
Okay.
floor or something else.
It's not bad, and then the storage room, there are some holes.
Yes.
Where's the smell? Is the laundry room?
Is the laundry room, 3700.
Same thing with this storage room, actually, our storage, there's a big hole on top, and every time it rains, water leaks, and not just water, but dirt has been coming in and everything, so.
What is it?
This is
37, 14.
So bad, okay.
And the outlets in our unit aren't done. Yeah, some of them don't work.
Okay, I got that same
Outlets would be the owner's responsibility. Yeah.
How are they out?
The outlets, they don't work. They don't work.
Some of them
Yeah,
don't work.
so that's the owner's responsibility.
Sometimes they get disconnected, the wiring gets disconnected from the outlet. It could be anything, it's hard to say. But generally, it's the owner's responsibility until proven otherwise.
Yeah,
Is that reasonable?
yeah.
So where do you said there's water in this laundry room?
And
Storage room.
Storage.
You think it's groundwater from outside, like a store,
It's, the storage, the two stores that I have is actually right at the wall level,
So it's
so every
coming-
time it rains, I'm assuming it's just coming from the outside, I don't know. I've
is
seen
there
water
a,
sitting
do you know if there's a downspout or anything on the outside that might?
That might be it, I don't know. What I had to do, I put a pallet and so put my stuff on that, on top of that, in order not to get young water, whatever.
Just odd that it would leak when it rains
Yeah.
on the ground level.
Oh, and this was one more. And then you have 3700 for patio, the wall is known as patio.
It's the T4.
Yeah.
I don't even know who the officers are. Who's the, you're
I'm the
president?
secretary.
Yes.
Let's get started.
Treasurer, assistant treasurer and secretary, that's Carlos.
I haven't really met you either, but who were you missing?
Juanitu, the vice president.
Which is,
Juanitu, Abraham. Another copy of the bonds.
everybody have a place they would like to start? You want a good introduction of some sort, or what do you want to? I can do it, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to do it.
Okay,
Since I was-
my name's Ken Erickson. I was, my company was selected to be the management company for your community starting, next week. Look, I've been managing it for about a month now, but isn't official until next week. And the law in Virginia is that if the board of directors gets together, if any more than 3 board members sits down in a room, it's considered a board meeting. And if that happens, they have to put a notice out and say, we're all going to sit down and have dinner, and kind of have to have an open forum. It's the way the law is now. It's fine. It's transparency. It's making sure everybody can see what's going on, and we don't have anything to hide. I don't even know what it is I would want to hide at this point yet. I usually have to be around a while before I find things that I want to hide. I have spent the last couple weeks reading a lot of documents, getting up to speed on a lot of things. There is a lot that needs to be done, and that's why we're having this meeting. Because not only are there the really big things that you're all aware of, like the roofs and balconies and the street and the concrete and all the other large items, the pipes, but there's also other things like a laundry room with a hole in the ceiling or bad smells. And so I'm just trying to this whole meeting was just for us to get together as a group and talk about what needs to be done and how it is that we're going to try to tackle everything that needs to be done in some kind of time frame that keeps you happy and doesn't make me go crazy. So, and them as well. So, any more crazy for me, but crazy for me. So we're just going to have general conversations about the maintenance of the community and how things are done. I didn't even know you had storage rooms. I didn't really know you had laundry rooms because I can't really tell from where I walk through. So I'm starting like I just moved in yesterday, and these fine folks are going to help me get up to speed. Andy is the association's attorney, and I'm sure you know who the rest of everybody is. So that's where we're going to go. So you want to ask? We said no open forum, but absolutely, sorry.
Entonces él es Ken Erickson, él es su compañía East Coast Management fue seleccionado por la Junta para ser el nuevo manager, comenzando 1 de diciembre. Van a comenzar, pero dice que ya se siente que ya ha comenzado, porque dice que las últimas semanas ha estado leyendo muchos documentos acerca de Westbriar y la razón por la cual estamos teniendo esa reunión hoy es porque la Junta, dice por ley en Virginia, si más de 3 miembros de la Junta quiere tener una reunión, por ley tiene que ser abierto, tiene que avisar a la comunidad. Pero más que todo es reuniones para que la Junta hable con Ken y acerca de lo que es que hay que hacer en la comunidad, y no solo los como grandes proyectos, pero también las cosas de mantenimiento más básicos. Y dice que él apenas está comenzando a conocer la comunidad, que hasta hoy enteró que hay storage en la comunidad. Y también al lado de él es Andy Baxter, él es el abogado de la asociación.
Okay. I think we should deal with the first issue, the biggest issue, which would be the recall election first. That way we figure out how because we still have to send out a notice. I do have a roster. I got a roster from NRP. NRP, I keep looking at me.
NPR.
I know, I listen to NPR, so it's very confusing. I have a roster. I'm ready to go to mail whatever needs to be mailed out. So, what was the date of the notice? It was early November? Do we remember? The date of the notice of the recall, the request to have the meeting was
12.
November 12th?
And legally, Andy, is there a time when you have to set it?
Well, it says that the president shall call the meeting. So within some reasonable period of time, we do have to call the meeting.
Is there a time frame? Any
And
sort
there's
of,
a time frame for notice. It has to be no less than 7 days, no more than 30 days from notice. 30 days.
is,
Notice of the meeting, that is.
okay. I mean, I don't think it would be unreasonable to wait for management to officially start before we send the notice out. Because
Yeah, I
I don't
agree.
think it's not an issue, but it's not necessarily appropriate to have a company that isn't your management company sending out a notice. So we'll try to send it out next week, if that works for all of you. And then we have to schedule a date sometime in December.
Right.
Could it be
So I guess
That'll be-
January when people, if a
Well, if
lot
we-
of people are traveling?
Well, we have to do it if we have to do it within 30 days of the notice. We've had the notice, we've had the petition for a while. We haven't necessarily confirmed the petition's valid or anything, or that the owners who signed it are all still interested in signing or whatever. And I don't necessarily think we have to do that. If the people in this community want to hire or bring in a new board of directors and management company, then maybe it makes our lives that much easier. But you just have to have people who want to step forward and do all the heavy lifting, which is always a lot harder than talking about what you don't like about what other people are doing. So whatever you guys decide you want me to put out the notice, maybe we can meet in early January. That works for me too. I'd rather do that than December, but I also don't want it to be 2 months, because that's what we'll hear, is that, you know, we gave this to you on November 12th, and it took you 2 months to send out the notice. I don't want anybody to second guess things. I don't want to rush it, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't think it should go beyond 2 months. I think the first week or two of January makes sense, because then people are coming back from the holidays, and we can get the full 30 days notice in.
Right.
So what will that be?
So it could be like, what is the second week?
Second week of January could be, I have a meeting on 8 and 7, 8 and 9, so let's try to avoid Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
The first is on a
Monday.
Thursday, right? So
Yes.
the
The
8th would be,
5th is Monday, it can be the 5th is the second week of January, basically.
that's how I would count it.
Yeah,
Right, okay, so the 5th, January 5th.
yeah, that is fine with me.
January?
Does that work? At 6:30?
Yeah, 6:30.
Is the, I've never done one of these before. Does the sole purpose of the meeting would be to, I should turn to you. I mean,
Yeah, it's to recall, well, basically to remove the board, all of the
so
board.
does there have to be a vote at the meeting to recall the board?
Well, there has to be a majority vote either by proxy or by, which is a majority of all the condominium unit owners,
Right.
have to vote to recall the board. And then there can be a meeting, a vote at that meeting, if a quorum is present, in order to vote in the new board members.
Okay. Presumably there would be candidates, which we haven't, I haven't seen the petition. Were there a list of candidates that were proposed for?
There were not a list of candidates.
Okay. So we'll have a meeting to recall the board, but not necessarily have anybody to replace the board, except you all would run again.
Yeah, we could run again.
So you run, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So 6:30 on January.
There was, I think it was, there were just candidates.
There were candidates on the
Yeah,
petition?
there have
Okay.
been candidates.
That's fine. It doesn't matter. They'll have to, like I said, I've never done this. With the candidates for the, or do you
There
recall the board?
actually weren't candidates on the petitions that people
Right.
signed. There, I think NRP sent us a list of candidates, but there's nothing relating what people signed to that.
So how would
They
you?
sent so this is the petition, these are
Yeah.
the signatures.
Okay.
This is the official petition.
Okay, a lot of signatures. Okay, since the managing agent had already resigned prior to these, obviously the managing agent isn't going to be the proxy for these people, so I'm not really sure how that's
We need to
handled.
send out new proxies.
Right, so when we send out, that's right, because this proxy is irrelevant anyway, they don't get to do their own proxy. Okay,
Oh, and this was the other one.
Yeah, that needs to be part of the notice as a new proxy.
Yeah, this is the
Yes, I
first
intended to send
letter,
out a
and
proxy.
then when we requested the signatures, we got the signatures
okay.
on the document. People can review it if they.
All right, so now, is it the, thank you, is it the, so this is the, so we have a 25% quorum, just we'll say we have the quorum by person and by proxy. The people who vote by proxy, the people who provide proxies can vote by proxy, okay, and then the proxies would be assigned to either one proxy per representative, per member of the community, and then I think either, your bylaws said the managing agent or board member, board secretary, I think might have been
Yes,
specifically.
any board member, well, okay, so any unit owner can vote on behalf of any other unit owner.
Right, but only
But-
one.
Right, but only one. And then if you want to vote for multiple unit owners, then it says that it basically has to be a board member.
Right.
The managing agent is mentioned there, but analyzing.
But I don't want to, I don't want to.
Yeah, I won't get into the legal analysis, but it's questionable whether the managing
Right,
agent
I think it's
is
a
even
conflict.
valid to, is even valid to vote under the bylaws, so.
So, and I apologize, I'm just trying to noodle this through, because I haven't done it before. So, we could actually provide a proxy that says that they don't want to recall the board. I mean, basically, the proxy can be I do or I don't,
Right.
as a first step, because if the majority of homeowners at the meeting don't, and by proxy, don't agree to recall the board, then it's a moot point and the meeting's over and we all get to go home. Is that how you would?
Well, right, so if the proxy said, I vote to remove the board,
Right,
and you signed it or you don't sign it, you'd have to get a majority vote by proxy or in person at the meeting, and that's a majority of all the units
right.
in order to actually have that
Okay,
happen.
so let's assume that we have a majority that says they want to recall the board. Then it seems like we would need to have an election.
Right.
Would we have the election at a meeting even though we don't have,
But we could,
Candidates
we
or-
would have it at that same meeting.
Yeah.
So basically,
Is that
candidates would
required,
have to be
or-
floor nominated. Well, it says in the bylaws that that may occur. And then for a removal and basically a special election, it doesn't really give you a procedure for that.
right,
So if we were going to have the next election on a different day, we'd essentially have to invent a procedure for that. Because the
Okay.
bylaws really don't account for it. What the bylaws do account for is that replacement board members may be elected at that same meeting. That's what it
right.
says.
It's not that they shall or they must
Yeah,
or
not
anything
that they
else.
shall or they must.
So-
So we could come up with a different way of doing it, but we'd sort of be going outside the guidance of the bylaws in order to do that.
But if the bylaws don't provide any guidance on how we're supposed to
We
do
could
this.
certainly do it.
So if you had a meeting to determine whether or not to recall the board, because all you have right now is a petition to have a meeting wherein the community will vote to recall the board or not,
Right.
then you could call a meeting to have the actual election of the board. Because at that point, there won't, if they vote to recall the board, there won't be a board. So we can agree that we'll meet 5 or 10 days later, or whatever the amount of time it is, to have the election, but whatever period of time, doesn't matter, 30 days, because you need to still have some idea of who's running. I mean, you don't want to just elect people who stand up at a meeting and say, I want to run for the board, because they don't know necessarily anything about what's going on, you don't know anything about them. It would seem like a not very good process to not know who you're, electing to be on the board, because I'm agreeing to have the recall election. I agree the board needs to be removed, but that doesn't mean I want to get rid of the board. It just means that we should go through that process if I'm a homeowner. So I'm still noodling through this.
Well, no, that's a good point.
We can't have a second meeting
I
with,
think that should be part of what's is stated on the proxy then,
right, right,
to say that I vote to remove the board or remove this particular board member and then the list or whatever it is, and hold a special meeting in order to elect new board
to elect new board members.
on this date. And we should put what the proposed date is for that election, if that
Now,
occurs.
is this individual board members or the whole group? 'Cause this,
Well,
to me, I thought it
the
was-
proxy was the whole group,
Group,
so,
okay.
so.
So what's the second date if you want to do it that way? I mean, we could do it all at once if that's the way you want to do it. I think you come into a meeting not even knowing if you're still going to be on the board of directors. So you come into the meeting with a different attitude than you come to the meeting with if you knew you had to run for the board again or not, or whether there were going to be candidates or not. So it seems like you're trying to do too much at that time. So, I
Can I
don't
just
know.
explain what you?
Oh, yeah, you got a lot to talk about now,
Okay.
so, okay.
Acerca de la reunión, de cómo se puede, de la reunión 5 de enero, dice que tiene que ser un voto por mayoreo o por proxy para poder remover la junta, como un mayoreo de los dueños. Y
Yo puedo
25% para tener la reunión. Entonces estaban hablando cómo va a ser el proxy o el formulario de voto que se va a enviar a los dueños. Como yo voto para no mover la junta y en la reunión se cuentan los formularios y los que están votando en persona. Si hay un mayoreo para poder remover la junta. Y de ahí estaban hablando si en ese momento, si es que deciden hay un mayoreo para remover la junta, si es que en ese momento va a tener la selección de una nueva junta. Y y también nosotros 5 los mismos podemos ser candidatos, pero Ken está diciendo que sería mejor que unos días después hay una selección, si es que pasa eso.
So what did we decide?
Okay, so
I think we
basically,
just
the
decided.
situation is, we have the meeting set up for January 5th.
At 6:30?
Yeah, it's
Right,
very-
so this is to recall
read
the
that.
board, right?
Yes.
For people to opt in, like, to
Recall or
decide
not?
it, recall or not.
Okay.
And then basically we're saying that we want to give like 5 extra days for people to get to know the new potential board members, the candidates, so people can make a smart decision and can get some background of these new people that would like to become new members of the board.
Okay.
And then have this new meeting, right, after a few days, and so at least people got some information from them, and there can be a fair vote for the new board.
Well, let me push that a
That's
little.
my understanding.
Okay, that sounds good. Let me suggest that if we have if the vote is positive and they want to recall the board,
Mhm.
then I would suggest that anybody who wants to serve on the board has 3 days to provide a single page or half page summary of who they are and why they want to run for the board, that they provide to us,
That's what we did.
that we then mail out again.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what we did.
And then so we're not gonna be able to have a meeting 5 days later, because we have to get all this together, which means it's gonna be
And send it
2
to
And we still need a
others.
special meeting notice that has to be
Right,
sent.
7 to 30 days again. But
Okay.
at least we can, if we say you've got 3 to 5 days to turn around a resume, if you will,
Mhm.
then we'll meet 7 to 30 days after that to have the election of board members.
So January 5th is Monday, right?
Monday.
Yeah.
So can we maybe make Friday the deadline for that, for nominations?
9.
Is that all right?
So that means.
That means you have to
That means
provide
them
something to
submit to
me
you by Friday.
by Friday
Yeah.
expressing your interest in running, because you're not going to accept candidates from the floor at the second meeting, the second special meeting, which would be to elect board members. You're only going to accept them if they're in by Friday, the 9th of January.
Well, actually, the bylaws allow for a floor
Right.
nomination.
It doesn't mean you
Yeah,
have
always
to,
been able to do
it doesn't mean you have to do it. Because it's not fair to have the other people go through the nominating process and then have somebody stand up at the meeting and say, I want to run too. That's-
I'll have to double check that because I
Okay,
think
let's
that
make
we-
sure for
yeah,
that.
I think that,
I've had communities not open the floor for voting if there is a process in place that you have to put your resume in, because then they don't know who you are. That's not fair to the people who actually came up with put some effort into the process.
okay.
And I probably mentioned something about a nominating committee too. I didn't get that far.
Yeah, the
into it.
nominating
There is
committee
a-
for the regular.
So anybody who has the resume in by Friday would be approved by the nominating committee, and we can bring anybody in as a nominating committee, and that's it. You don't have to let anybody else run that hasn't gone through the nominating committee, unless there's something in the bylaws that
Yeah, but
specifically says no matter what else you have done, we have to let you run anyway. I don't think that's gonna be the case.
Yeah, I'll double check that because if we make some limitation on it, we want to make sure that's not in contradiction of the bylaws.
Okay, so resume vote on Monday, resume by Friday.
Mhm.
Okay,
Están
and then-
hablando de un voto para 5 de enero, si es que votan para remover la Junta. Si es que hay una mayoría para remover la Junta, dice que la fecha límite va a ser
So
9
the
de enero,
potential
como
special
unos días
meeting would
después,
be.
para que todos que están
7 days after that?
Yeah, so
So the
the
19th.
following
But we need
Friday.
I need to have
tienen
time to
que
nail
enviar
it.
sus datos.
Sure.
quiénes
Should be
son,
Monday.
quiénes son.
For the
So that's the
mo-
12th.
Okay, so following.
The following is the
Monday,
19th.
So,
Y
Right.
the
Thank
next
you.
one.
Yeah, 3 to 12. I
12
can
for
get
you
it tomorrow.
to have one week to mail that, and for people to get it, and the 19th to vote.
19th for the vote.
what would be the
Would that
deadline?
work?
Just
Well,
send-
if I have but I'd like to be able to mail them, well, that's fine. If I mail them, what I would do is maybe, I can't meet the third Monday, but maybe the third Thursday, if that's possible. Can you meet, when do you all
Oh,
normally,
it's a holiday.
when is your
Martin
regular?
Luther King.
We need to discuss that too.
Yeah, we
It
can't
Okay.
do
used
it
to
on
be
the-
Monday, like the last Monday of every month, but a long time ago.
Okay, that's fine. I can do last Monday, the beginning of the week, the beginning of the month, the end of the month, I'm pretty much wide open. When you get to the middle of the month, it's, gotta be pretty much a Monday
So
or Thursday.
26,
Yeah, the 26th, and maybe we could,
No,
do you think it would be a problem to just call a regular meeting of the board for, and then that would also serve the.
Sure,
purpose
instead of getting together over and over again to have
Mhm.
5-minute meetings and then leave.
Yeah,
If we have to have,
Yeah, so maybe we can just set the 26th as being a meeting no matter what of the association.
Yeah,
And
a
then
board meeting.
If this thing happens on January 5th,
I'm sorry, don't even,
Then
that's,
it'll be
that's
also
Monday,
the day.
right?
January 26th, yeah, Monday, January 26th.
Okay, we're all on the same page, so we'll meet on January 5th, the special meeting to decide whether or not to recall the board. We'll get all the resumes by Friday, and we'll mail them out on Monday. Then the notice that I'm sending out about this meeting on the 5th will mention that there will be, if there is a recall vote in favor of removing the board, then the election will be on the 26th, which would be, and if there is none, we'll have a regular meeting anyway.
Mhm.
okay.
Okay.
So the 26th is on your calendar. We're
Yeah.
definitely meeting on the
Well,
26th either
Are we
way.
gonna have a regular meeting anyway? When does the election process have to happen? At the beginning?
January.
Or do you go through the meeting?
Do right at the beginning. And then if you all are not reelected, then I'll meet with the new board and they'll decide how they want to proceed. Does that work?
So, well, I guess I'm asking because of the minutes or agenda that we have to do at the meetings, these standard meetings.
I'll have a sort of a management agenda ready to go. It probably will be fairly sparse, but I'll have something ready to go, and whoever the board is at that time is who we'll meet with. It's kind of sad to think about.
No, I just.
I don't even know you yet, I'm already having to say goodbye. Okay, so it seems like we've got that pretty well hashed out, right?
Okay, so yeah, so if we have candidates, and they send you resumes, so that means that these January 26th could be either the special meeting or
Or a regular board meeting.
to elect the new people, but not both at the same time.
Well, it could
It
actually
could be
be,
both,
well, it could be.
I mean, the current board could meet, and then the election could come next, right?
No, the election will be first.
The election.
Yeah,
comes
you're not
first.
gonna have a meeting, if there's a vote on the 5th to remove the board,
Yeah,
then you're not gonna have a meeting.
so election was.
That board is done at that point. They would have a meeting on the
So
20th.
we couldn't run again, this is what I.
No, you could run again.
Yeah, you absolutely can run
You
again.
could run again, but
It-
you
it
have
could
to
be
go
that
through the
there's
same
a-
nomination process.
Right, it could be that the board is removed at the meeting, at the special meeting, and they're all reelected again a few weeks later. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to happen, because by then, you'll have had to put out a resume and let people know what it is that makes you want to be on the board. So I'm guessing that, that there won't be 5 more people who want to run. Maybe there will, I don't know the community well enough, but I'm thinking that several of you will still be on the board.
Yeah, okay.
So we will have we'll have the election at the beginning of the
January
meeting, and then we'll have the regular meeting of whoever the board members are at the time. Now, the election, there was some question about outside agencies and stuff like that. I think that's a waste. My suggestion would be that you get people from the audience to form the election committee. I'll put together a computer program. All you have to do is type in the number of, which apartment number it is, and it'll put the par value with the votes, and we'll be able to do all of that. All we need to do is have a couple people who aren't running for the board to volunteer to be on the elections committee, that's what we call it. And that way, everything will work out fine.
Yeah.
And I'll have a laptop with me, so.
Okay.
Because you have par values, and it always makes it so confusing.
Right.
It was. Like they were with a calculator and the iPhone counting all that.
Yeah, I have this, all you have to, you have, 15 different unit types. So when you come in, your unit type would be marked on your ballot. So it would just be, candidate 1, 2, and 3 for unit type 5.
Yeah, because what
And
happened
then we're all
during the
set.
last election was that some of the ballots didn't have the percentage.
Right, yeah.
So they were like discarded unfairly because the management company was supposed to make sure that every
Right.
the percentage.
Well, we'll have a.
That's good if we can avoid.
I'll have a
that.
roster that'll have the par values on it, so there's no reason why that should happen.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll-
Okay.
So that's already
clear.
more than we want to think about for the special meetings and all that stuff. So are we having, I guess we're having a meeting in December. We're gonna do it at the end of the month? That's kind of,
Sure.
Yeah, I was wondering if you guys wanted to schedule another regular meeting of the association before this special meeting.
well, the reason we're having this meeting is because we didn't think we'd be ready to have the regular meeting. So we wanted to get together and figure out all the stuff we needed to do, so we'd actually be ready to go for a regular meeting.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we probably still need to have one. Much as I can assure you, I hate board meetings, nothing personal. I would rather be anywhere than That's not quite right. There's a lot of places I would rather be than sitting here right now.
But what's the
What
last
about
weekend?
December 22nd?
But I think it's necessary. And especially in December, because this is like my down month.
Before Christmas, December 22nd.
Is that a Monday also?
Yeah. Do you
That's
want it-
Christmas week?
Yeah,
That's Christmas week.
Christmas.
You don't
What's
want the
what's
15th, the
following?
15th?
No, that's fine, I don't,
The following is the 29th, and
29th,
people
yeah,
actually
that's
take
right.
those
you know,
days.
I'm not planning on going anywhere. You all,
I'm
you know,
not-
I'm not gonna
I'm
force
still
you to meet
working
on
on the
Christmas
26th.
week. If you don't wanna meet Christmas week, let's meet some other time.
I have no preference either.
How about the Thursday before Christmas? Is that the 18th?
The 18th, yeah, that
Now, you
works for
said
me.
Monday and Thursday are okay, or just Mondays?
I'm fine with Thursday. I mean, it's
Is
just-
everybody okay with Thursday?
18 de diciembre, pues bien,
Because I would love to get out of town on Thursday,
Uh,
the 18th, not the
The
25th.
18th, okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
So we'll meet December
Thursday,
Thursday,
December
December
20, I mean 18.
at 6:30 here. Everybody's good with that? I don't want to,
Yeah.
and then we have plenty of time to put notices out to let people know that we're having a meeting on the 18th. Now, I'm not sure we've kind of gone back and forth on the meeting notice requirements. If you have a regular date, then clearly the notice is that we're going to meet on the regular date. So it's probably good to have, maybe in next year, once we finally get everything on track, is to meet regularly on the fourth Monday or the fourth Thursday or whatever day it is that you all choose to meet. So that way you don't even really have to put a notice of meeting out, other than if you're going to cancel a meeting or change the date.
Ah, okay.
Because it's expected that on the fourth Monday that the board will meet. While Andy's poking through papers, that I'm sure is going to be relevant, I did get an email from Sheila, who volunteered very nicely generously to meet with me and walk around the property and sort of get an idea of what kind of issues she's facing and how we're dealing with that. So that, I think, will be very helpful.
When are you meeting?
I haven't set a date or time. I mean, all this other stuff has to sort of be all figured out first before we do that.
Okay.
You all got the financials for September. We haven't got October yet. I made a couple of comments in various emails about extra charges that were made. I
Yeah,
think it's something that's worth having Andy, and I don't know whether the previous board had authorized NRP to,
are these the almost $4,000?
Wasn't it 14?
$4,000 plus $759 plus $700 plus $200.
well, some of them were clearly extra charges for things like postage and delinquency letters and stuff like that, which is
Like
fine.
I was looking at the cash disbursement report.
Yeah, that's where I was at. There was a $3,975 invoice,
Right.
and then another $900 invoice that particularly caught my eye. And I went back through the
The retail expense.
through this schedule of charges, and there was, trying to find it again, the 3,900 one. It looked like it was for attendance at meetings and for things like that, which JF annual meeting attendance, $700. JF renovation email BOD, $150. I don't know who JF is.
Jim
And-
Foley.
Okay, so because Jim Foley was involved, he charged you $300 an hour or $150
Yeah,
an hour.
yeah.
And was he asked to be involved? So I guess Jim attended the annual meeting.
Yes, Jim
Yes.
attended the annual meeting. There was no specific.
That's a great bargain. I want to get that, I want that contract. No, but you're special, I mean, we talked about the special charges and stuff. I mean, that's nothing. I mean, we don't charge for
Even the mail.
40% of, not 40%, we don't charge for 90% of the things they charge for. And the biggest one was on the construction management. I mean, we hire engineers. I'm not going to get out here and inspect the balconies when that work is being done, or the roofs. I'll get up on the roof, but I'm not an engineer, and I'm not going to charge you 3% of $2.5 million for the privilege of you having me walk around with the engineers and say, yeah, you guys are doing a great job. And that's $70-something thousand that they were going to charge you that we're not going to charge you. So you already paid for me for 3 years, so I hope you keep me that long. We'll see. Keys, we talked about keys before. None of you have, somebody has a key to this room, right?
It's in a combo box.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in the
I
box,
just get a
okay.
passcode.
I can give you the passcode.
Okay, I'll get a code from you at some point. I need to be able to get into, I mean, I'm gonna bring people out that do maintenance and stuff, look at holes in ceilings. I need to be able to get into rooms. And if there's,
You like units?
no, I'm not going into anybody's,
Oh, just,
no.
okay.
Storage rooms, laundry rooms, if there's a key to roof access, I wanna
I
get
don't
that.
have any idea about the keys.
I think Sheila should have them, or maybe the maintenance guy with Rate Mechanical
Okay.
has them.
So I need to get in touch with them about the keys.
There's also
I
a
think
pool
Sheila will
house.
be the one.
Yes, I do. I didn't want to think about that until
What?
March.
What?
Pool house.
Ah, yeah.
What kind of condition is the pool in? I mean, I know it was on the list of a white coat, which isn't generally a huge deal, but the rooms, the bathrooms, the
I
shower.
personally have never gone to the pool,
Okay.
so I don't know the situation. Have you been to
I went once with my daughter. I thought
the
it was
bathroom was
okay.
situation?
Anybody, is the pool
Anybody
sort
knows?
of usable? I mean, are we really looking at a big expense for the pool also?
Esta no sabe
No.
esa.
¿La
Anybody here use the
piscina,
pool?
¿Alguna vez ha ido alguien a
Yeah,
la
I
piscina?
haven't used it in a while, but I think it needs some help.
Okay. I mean, on the list of
Generally
priorities,
speaking.
it's obviously way down the list.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not gonna, I don't wanna start a riot, but are you all interested in maybe not opening the pool next year? Taking a year off to save
Which will
the
save
$25,000 probably, that you could spend on other things?
Is that something that maybe we could
Why not
ask
say-
at a meeting?
Sure, you'll have a
Yeah.
you'll have a
If we have a
majority of
quorum.
homeowners at the
Yeah.
meeting.
That would-
It's, you all make the decision whether you want to do it or not. Obviously, you want as much, you want as much input as possible. We're not making any decisions without, but everybody's not going to agree. There'll be half a dozen people who want to use the pool regularly and probably 100 people who don't ever use the pool. It's an amenity, we want to keep it open, but if it's going to cost $20,000 to open the pool and then $20,000 to operate the pool, that money needs to be spent on,
Yeah, because it
making
was
sure
more
bathrooms
than
are safe.
$25,000 what we spent last year.
Yeah.
I mean, this
I'm
year.
guessing the contract just for the guards is probably $15,000. I don't know how much
For
the
the
pool
what?
is. Just for the lifeguards and the pool company
Oh,
is probably, well, you're open maybe 5 days a week, 8 hours,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
you don't have any idea then?
Something like that.
Steph told me.
So pool service 14,000 plus 2,500.
And all the repairs and
Plus all
stuff.
the repairs.
Yeah,
And
so,
also-
I think it was
saw-
around 30, over 35,000.
So we did have a fax machine in the pool. Is that, I mean, what was told to me was that it was for the lifeguards to being able to put signs.
possible.
Is
It's
that,
not a
is
bad
that a
idea.
requirement? Is that?
You don't have anything in here, do you? Do you have a phone? Do you have a,
Nothing.
there's nothing in here at all? So you need some way of being able to, I mean, you have the pool with the phone.
Mhm.
You have the phone at the pool, let's do that again. You want to be able to do notices. If you have an emergency, the lifeguard, I could fax a notice over, the lifeguards could post it. You also have the phone on all the time, so it would be a way to communicate. It's not the most convenient way to communicate, but you'd have you'd have the phone line available. We usually turn the phones off during the wintertime.
That's what I noticed when you send the quote and like your budget for the other
Right.
building you were managing.
Yeah, there's no
It was
reason to
much
do that.
less than.
It's about a third the cost. It
Yes.
costs you about
So
$75
I wanna make
to
sure
turn it back on
that we do
again,
that.
but you save $30 a month for 6 or 8 months. That's something to think about and to talk to your friends and neighbors about, say, hey, what do you think if we close the pool next year? I'm not thinking that's like a first step is we want to take something more away from people because we don't want to do that at all. I guess the next big issue is just,
Can I just
oh, so go ahead.
say-
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Una cosa que dice que se puede preguntar a la gente, a sus vecinos, o en la siguiente reunión también, qué piensa la gente de estar de vecina este año que viene, para ahorrar dinero para hacer sus reparaciones. Entonces, esa es una cosa que podemos preguntar a la gente.
All good?
Also, can I just
Yes,
jump in here
please.
for a second? The December 18th meeting, regularly scheduled meeting,
Right.
it requires 21 to 30 days notice under the bylaws, so it's not
It's not a community meeting, it's a regular board of directors meeting.
Oh, I thought that was going to be a regular meeting of the association.
No, it's a regular meeting of the board.
Okay, so the January 26th will be the regular meeting of the
Well,
association.
it's a special meeting
It's a,
of the membership. It's not a board meeting, it's a special meeting of the membership. The requirement, it's the 21 days is
for
for,
meeting, regularly scheduled meetings of the
well,
association.
that's why I thought that we needed 21 days before the meeting in January, but it doesn't matter because
Yeah,
we're gonna be more than 21 anyway.
There's a picky little distinction between a special meeting, which can only be called for a limited purpose, and then that could be, and that's on petition.
Right.
And that's 7 to 30
Okay.
days. And then the regularly scheduled meetings are the meetings that are set by the board or the annual
At
meeting.
least once every
And
month.
Yeah, and that is required.
You're sure you're not confusing that with the annual meeting of the
At least
membership?
3 business days prior to the day named. So it's
No,
not this one?
That's
it's 3
board,
business-
yeah,
That's the
board.
regular
Can
meeting.
you read it again? I'm sorry.
This is the, under regular meetings, it says, so notice of regular meetings of the board of directors should be given to each director personally or by email, telegraph, or telephone, at least 3 business days prior to the day named for such meeting.
Right, so
Right.
that's also a difference between a meeting of the association membership and a meeting of the board. So yeah, there is a requirement that there be a board meeting every month.
Mhm.
So we should decide,
At
and
least once every.
Well, that's
you guys used to do a meeting of the association membership on the last Monday of every month. You guys actually are not required under the bylaws to do more than one annual meeting of the association. But if you guys do schedule a meeting of the association, what would be called a regularly scheduled meeting, like you guys used to have at the end of every month, that would be, require 21 to 30 days notice of the membership.
Well, I would, and I'm not
Yeah.
disagreeing with you, but I think that's kind of like this meeting, it's just kind of an informal thing. Because I haven't been to this meeting, obviously, but you don't make motions, and it's kind of just an opportunity for homeowners to communicate with the board. Isn't that what that other meeting was? The meeting is at the end of the month?
Right.
So you have a regular board of directors meeting, and you have to give notice to all the board members at least 3 days in advance, so that we can't sneak out and have a meeting without Michelle. Like we'll tell her tomorrow, we're meeting tomorrow, by the way, since you're going out of town. You can't do that. You have to give at least 3 days notice so she has an opportunity to attend. There isn't anything in your bylaws that requires notice to the membership about regular board meetings, but there is something in the Property Owners Act, which is the higher authority, which says it has to be in a conspicuous location. You can't have private meetings and try to hide things from the community. You just have to do everything out in the open, which is what we're doing. So I think that the regular meeting of the board, if you get notice at least a week or so in advance, preferably at least a week or so in advance, it's never going to be an issue. But I don't believe there's an issue even if you only give 1 or 2 days notice, because that's
The board of directors only require a 3-day notice.
right. You give notice to each other. We try to make sure the community is advised as well. We definitely don't do anything without the community being aware of it. I think the annual meeting is what requires the longer notice. But anytime, and that is the official annual meeting where you're electing members to the board of directors. It's not a meeting like your informal meetings at the end of the month where you talk about the things that needed to be taken care of. So I think that's the difference. And those meetings don't require more than a couple days notice.
So for
either.
December 18th meeting, this is a board meeting.
Right.
And then for the January 5th meeting is a special meeting with a limited purpose that's going to
And
be.
there will be a mailing, a notice by mail, and with a proxy.
And then the January 26th meeting,
Will be a special meeting as well, and that notice will be included with the notice of the other meeting.
but should that be a special meeting or a regularly scheduled meeting? I know I'm kind of getting
Right.
a little
The,
narrow, because if it were a special meeting, it would have to have a stated and limited purpose. If it were a regularly scheduled meeting, then it could be, I think, more what we're envisioning in that.
Wait. I have a note that we're having a special meeting on the 12th. That's not, the special meeting we're having is on the 5th, right?
Yeah,
And then the next meeting after that is the 26th.
Wait,
Yes.
so the 5th is a special meeting.
The 5th is a special meeting, 6:30. And then 3 weeks later, we're going to have the regular board of directors meeting, but it's going to be preceded by another special meeting. If on the 5th, everybody says that we're going to elect a new board of directors, then we'll be sending out another notice that says these are the people who have decided to run for the board. And it's only going to be 14 days notice,
Right.
which I think is,
Well, that's the thing, is that's why I think that.
but we can give notice before that.
Right.
The only thing we're giving at that point, after the 5th, is just let people know we're going to be having an election. So I don't think that's, let me back up, I'm sorry. I'm gonna mail out the proxy as soon as I can about the special meeting on January 5th. It will also mention that if the meeting determines that the board of directors will be recalled, then there will be another meeting on the 26th of January. This room, same thing. So I will have already given notice
Okay,
of
so
both
that's-
of the meetings at that point.
So that's different than, so
But
that's
I
fine
think
if
they're
you want
both
to make
special
it.
meetings.
Okay, if you want to make them both special meetings, that's fine. The board would decide if they should be kind of an if-then special meeting. But you would say that also if the So there would be no regularly scheduled meeting of the association in the event that the board is not removed. Is that what you're suggesting? There would be a board meeting.
Right,
On the
right, right.
26th.
Oh, I got you. You said it absolutely right. I thought.
Okay, all
Yes,
right, yeah,
yes.
okay, I got you.
There
So,
will not be a meeting of the membership
right,
on the 26th of January if there is not a positive vote to recall the board.
right.
All we'll be doing is having a regular board of directors
So
meeting.
then it would be a special meeting with the special meeting notice requirements, and they would go out, I assume, January 9th after you guys
Yeah, like the
get
12th.
the
Well,
nominations.
that's my problem right now, is because I won't have time, if the 5th is the date of the meeting, and we give everybody till Friday to turn in their
As
resumes,
close of business, you have to.
I'm not gonna have enough time to give what the requirement is for notice for another special meeting from the 12th. If I send out a notice on the 12th with all of the resumes,
Right,
I'm not giving enough notice. I'm only giving 12 days or 14 days.
So let's make
well,
it
that's
safe and then
okay for a
extend it.
special meeting. That's
It was 7 to 31.
7 to
Okay,
30,
so
7 to
okay.
30. So it is okay, it's just, yeah, I mean, yeah, and
And
that's fine.
it isn't if the board is recalled, then we're gonna have another special meeting on the state. Everybody will be notified of it 6 weeks in advance, and then we'll put the other notice, like, okay, there's been this election, the board has been recalled, here's 10 resumes for people who are running, including the 5 who are already on the board, for you to respond back to, and we're meeting on the 26th. As a special meeting and the regular board of directors meeting will follow, whoever the board happens to be at that time. And we've met all the meeting requirements at that point?
Right, except for there would be one issue of, we wouldn't be able to put out a ballot proxy if the board were recalled. I guess you could have a proxy form, but there would be no individual left standing who would be able to vote for multiple people. So there would be no board member, unit owners in order to.
Well, we'll let you figure that one out. See who else can be appointed to be a multiple proxy.
Yeah. Well,
And if there's nobody, then I can make the proxy so that it's a voting proxy. If you want a voting proxy, you check off the 5 names. You've got the resumes.
Right.
Check off the 5 names of the people you want on the board of directors. That's your vote. You don't have to have somebody, I mean, if it's provided to the secretary of the board or the attorney or management company or just another homeowner who brings it in, as long as it's a valid signed proxy, then it should be okay. Does that work for you, or is that too?
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll take a look at it. I mean, I don't,
It's gonna take some finagling to get this all to
yeah,
work out.
to all happen like this.
Or can you just require that people come, like, be physically present
I
to
mean,
vote?
I think that kind of becomes your only option, is that it actually has to be people physically present and voting. Well, but we could send out a proxy, but it would be the proxy rules that are in the bylaws that would limit it to you appointing another homeowner to be your proxy, but then that homeowner would only be able to vote for himself and one other person. So you could appoint someone to vote in your stead,
But then we will have to be
but,
checking, okay.
but you wouldn't be able
already
to,
voted
you
for
wouldn't be
this
able to circle one person who'd then be able to go and vote for 20 people. I don't think you'd be able to do that anymore.
Okay, can you confirm that?
Yeah,
for us?
I can.
Just see if there's any alternatives.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you could have a voting proxy. I mean, it's like voting for the president in advance. You go and you check your ballot off and you send it in. It doesn't really require somebody to go there and say, Ken wanted to vote for Reagan, it just gets sent in.
Yeah, and, the bylaws just say that, vote in person or by proxy, and then it has a section that
Right,
defines
I
proxy.
understand the,
So but that's my understanding of it at this point, so that might be problematic, we could send out a proxy, but then we'd have that issue where there'd be no person who could vote for multiple people.
I definitely don't want to do anything that's going to be questioned, so if you let me know if they have to be here, they have to be here. Hopefully it won't happen, so I hope, there's no reason for it to, so hopefully it won't. Okay, I don't want to keep you on, do you need to translate or? Take 2 minutes.
¿Qué cosa vas a traducir?
Lo que estaban diciendo.
Pero básicamente, señor, ¿dejó algún problema que tiene su... ¿Vamos a regresar?
Ok, entonces, bueno, 5 de enero va a ser una reunión especial. That's right. January 5th was going to be a special meeting. De votar para remover o no remover la junta. Y va a notificar a la gente de eso. Y si es que se vote, sí, para remover la junta, entonces
What's our top dead?
la siguiente reunión,
What time do you want to be done?
va a ser otra reunión especial.
It's just
I'm
kind
talking
of
more.
Para seleccionar
a lot of stuff that's still
los
coming.
5 queremos ser candidatos otra vez para eso. Y si no hay suficiente voto para remover la junta, entonces no más, siempre va a haber reunión el 26 de enero, pero no ya ahí estaban hablando de cómo, bueno, Angie va a verificar si puede importar los costos, como la regla específica de contrato.
I don't know if it's an overcharge.
Well, but yeah, the suspect ones,
This one,
yeah.
if you send, if
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, you can do this. This is a full.
I just sent it.
Oh, actually, this is just, well, this is just that section, so this is a whole.
Okay, and those
So
are.
do you want to,
This is the other section.
do you want to translate it in English now? Because I think we're all still trying to make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay,
Tell me what
so-
you
Yeah,
told
so
him.
what I told them is that 6:30, January 5th was gonna be a special meeting, and you were gonna send out, to recall or not recall the board.
Okay.
And that's what you were gonna send out in your notice. And also, you're gonna mention in the notice that if the 5th of January, there was the decision, a majority vote to remove the board, then the 26th of January was gonna be a special meeting
Mhm.
to vote for a new board,
Mhm.
and that the 5 of us can still be candidates for that. Or if there wasn't enough votes to remove the board on January 5th, then just the 26th will be a
Regular
regular
meeting.
board meeting.
Okay.
And that Andy was gonna investigate the proxy vote, how, what is the specific rule about that? Or if you just have to be present to vote.
Okay.
Or if it's just a regular proxy where only one person.
Because
can
you
be
can't
present.
be, I mean, I think the alternative, I think the secretary of the board is one of the choices, but there won't be a secretary
There
of the
won't be a
board.
secretary. Yeah, there won't
So,
be any
yeah,
board
so we'll
members.
have to do that.
So-
We'll make it work, we'll make it work out.
Okay.
Okay, routine maintenance.
Uh-huh,
Okay, so starting on December 1st, I get to take over routine maintenance.
yes.
I don't know, I read over the contract, I don't know if the company that you use, I don't like an agreement where somebody's paid to work 20 hours a week, and then if he needs more time, he charges you more, and if he has special projects, he charges you more. But he doesn't charge you less if he works 10 hours or 5 hours. I don't like that. I don't know if you like the company, but even if you don't like the company, I'll find somebody else. If you do like the company, I'd like to have the ability to go back to them and say, hey, we need to go on an hourly here, and I need you to let me know when you're doing stuff, and I want to know what you're doing.
Exactly, I was
Yeah,
wondering.
we
Otherwise-
have the open one.
Well, that's $35,000 a year that you're paying, and don't know, I can't see that a lot, I mean, I walk around and I find bricks laying in front of,
Did you ever request to Sheila if she had any, spreadsheets of the service calls and how were they closed? and
no,
what?
I've not gotten that far yet.
Okay.
That's like the details. I'm still doing big picture stuff at this point. So I'm gonna move forward with the expectation that if they don't want to do it, well, are you all,
Well,
do you
the
know
thing
this
is
company?
that, yes, I've never seen the maintenance guy.
Okay, so
And I've been talking to people, and they've told me that they have never seen the
Okay,
maintenance.
so I'm gonna notify them that their services are no longer needed, that we appreciate everything they've done for us. Is that right? And I'll hire somebody to do the work. I'll hire 5 contractors to do the work instead of one company to maybe.
Because that company provided not only plumbing, but it was like what the maintenance person was for just
You're supposed to have a
plumbing,
maintenance person for 20 hours a week under that contract, and you pay $30,000 for
Yeah,
it.
there's not-
You also have a cleaning contract.
Right.
Now, I have no problem with Buzzwell Bennett, and I don't know whether they're doing a good job or not, but I think they could
At
probably do
least
a better
not in
job.
my building. Anyone has any feedback about the
Cleaning
cleaning
company?
company?
Or the maintenance company.
Do you ever see them?
Yeah, I've been seeing them.
You see the cleaning company?
I think they're fine.
Cleaning you've seen?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the cleaning
I've never
company.
seen anyone.
I haven't seen anybody maintenance.
Okay. Has anybody seen a maintenance man lately, ever? No? Okay, well, that's a done deal then.
Visto de mantenimiento.
I'll ask them if they can give us some money back too, since we haven't seen them around in a while.
I see him like for sometimes like I have some calls for emergency
Mhm.
and they never send him like to my apartment.
Okay.
They send me to me to do it. So
Just talk you through that.
I have I have people who do different kinds of things. I don't want, it's not gonna be one guy who does lights and another guy who does something else. I'll just have the people to take care of that. I guess the other,
Is that a decision that we're making here? Like, for example, you're saying,
well,
okay,
I guess what
do we approve that via email, or how does it?
no, I don't need anything, well, I guess,
About the maintenance company?
no, I'm just gonna stop using the maintenance company, so,
Okay. We have to give a 30-day notice, I guess.
that's fine. I mean, he's not doing anything anyway. And actually, I might do the notice such that, since you haven't been out here for the last 30 days, we'll just call it even and you'll get paid through the end of the month. I think that's fine. So I don't really have authority to notify him that we're gonna terminate him.
Right.
Without getting a vote of the board, and I can't get a vote of the board because this isn't a board meeting.
Right.
So basically,
Well, it
we'll send
seems
an email and
Stupid to
we'll
do it by
approve
email, nothing, you know, it just seems stupid to do it by email when we're all sitting here and we have 20 witnesses, so.
Right,
But
but we'll send an email to,
okay. I don't think I need an email. Can I just have the board president direct me to find an alternative for the maintenance contract? And that wouldn't require a motion of the board?
Can we do it?
Is everyone in agreement? Everyone, yeah.
It's okay with that?
Yeah.
So just, if you want to,
CCS.
if you think it's the appropriate way to go, send me an email telling me that you'd like me to find somebody who will do a better job on the maintenance side.
And you can just copy us and then that's it.
I have a fellow who lives about 2 miles away on Carlin Springs Road at Columbia Pike. I don't think it's anywhere near 2 miles, but he lives in the area. He has a business called Above Average Handyman Service, something like that. It's available 24/7. So if we have a call in the middle of the night about something, I have somebody who can be here in 10 minutes, probably. And if he can't be here in 10 minutes, I'll find somebody else who can be here in 30, which is not terribly bad, but
Can I
it's not better than never.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is the soon as possible can change the lights outside?
Yeah, that's,
Because you know, sometimes I go work very early. It's so bad to go out.
oh, I agree. I trust me,
The
I,
light is,
It's on our agenda to talk about the lights today too.
please.
so that to me is what this does is, and you're saying you're authorizing me to find some other way to get the maintenance taken care of, and let me take care of it within the budget and all the other constraints that you have set forth. I'll go ahead and make sure things start getting fixed. And I assure you, you're not going to get. It'll be cheaper than having the NRP board president or president come to your annual meeting by far. So. The lights are going to be, the lights might be hard. First of all, they're 40 feet up in the air in some cases.
Right.
And it could be wiring, it could be ballasts, it could be bulbs, it could be anything. Hopefully they're easy to fix, it's just a matter of replacing a bulb, but it's never that easy.
So it's usually a company that is actually specialized in those type of lighting?
Well, I've got another company I work with called A.T. Laurie Enterprises. It's a Class A contractor. They'll probably get up on the roof to do the lights, or at least to make a first shot at them, because nobody wants to be 40 feet up in the air working with electricity. It's not the best thing that happens is you get electrocuted and you hang on. The worst thing is you get knocked down to the ground, and it hurts either way. But I'll have them see what they can fix, and we'll go from there.
Can you also just check in with Sheila, because I don't know, because I
Yeah,
think some of
yeah.
the residents had mentioned to her about the lights, so I don't know if she had something lined up.
I seriously doubt it, but I will talk to her about it.
Okay.
I have not gotten back to Sheila yet about her email, because I didn't want to talk to her before I talked to you guys. So, and maybe she's got some arrangements with the maintenance company, and she can let them know that they haven't, I want to see what they've done. If they haven't done anything in a couple of weeks, I just want to tell them we want our money back, and here's your 30 days notice. So we'll see how that works out.
Okay.
So
Also,
the lights are clearly, from my perspective, one of the highest priority, other than the other higher, bigger issues that we're dealing with, balconies, roofing. The lights are really the first place that I would start, and that's reasonable. We don't have a snow plowing company yet.
Right, we have a proposal
From M&M.
So how much
I
is
have
it?
I have people who can shovel.
Okay.
They can come up after the snow and shovel the sidewalks. I can get your landscape contractor to do the
I was gonna say,
plowing.
you were able
He
to
doesn't.
talk
He
to
can't do
the
the
city.
shoveling, but he can do the plowing for you.
Ah, okay.
That was the only reason he didn't want to offer to do the shoveling, because that's pretty labor intensive, and he has a lot of other communities that he shovels at. He doesn't have enough people to shovel.
Okay.
So I'm not saying we need to do that right now. We can, if it snows between now and the next time we all get together, I'll make sure the snow gets taken care of. Is that all right?
Yeah. Do we know?
Who was saying, who had mentioned that sometimes the towing companies also
Yeah.
offer?
And who is your towing company, by the way? Because I might be getting towed tonight.
Dominion, I think.
And do you have permits? That was the other issue. How do I know if I can park in the space?
Well, that's the whole parking situation.
is.
It should have, that's what I'm about it.
Right, so if I park in a blank space without a permit, I'm good.
Not
No.
after 6:30.
Well, so I'm not good.
Why
So,
is it,
so there is a permit.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I am being
Guest park, can I talk? The guest parking, why is too early, 6:30?
Well, where is
So
the,
everybody can be sitting until 6:30, they have to move the car, and there's no space anywhere.
yeah, it's
We have to
pretty tough on the
review-
street.
we have
That's
to
what was
review-
signed into the contract, was the towing company.
Because the board of directors from before had made that rule, so they just told the towing company this is the rule.
Start patrolling it. Do they have a time when they start patrolling? Because I know
I
sometimes,
actually haven't seen them.
I-
I called them one time, I said because there were no parking at all.
right,
And I told them if they can come and tow in the car. And they
Okay.
said, no, we can come, it's a private parking, we can go inside, you have to call your.
you called the
manager."
towing company or the police?
Really?
The towing company.
Okay. Well, a lot of times they'll say that they're not authorized to come out if, unless it's a board member who tells them. So I'll let Dominion know that we need to get a new
But they have
contract.
hours that they're supposed to be coming in to,
There's
But I've
rules
never
that they
seen them.
supposed
They
to-
say they-
Yeah, I've never
they
understood that
don't
either.
come if the manager doesn't call. That's what
Well,
they say.
well, maybe that's the way your contract's set up. Maybe it's set up only for patrolling
Well, I
if
personally
you're called.
have cars towed. So I personally, I wasn't a member of the board at the time. And they came and I said.
From a
"They're-"
reserve spot or from?
Yeah, from a reserve spot.
Okay, so
It
it might be a
was
little-
mine though.
It
was
depends on how
mine.
the contract's set up. Sometimes the contracts are set up so the towing company patrols, which means that at a certain time, they come into the property and they start patrolling it.
so
At
it
the end
says
of another
here,
time.
hours of patrolling, starting 6 PM to 6
So you
AM.
don't have the contract with the towing company?
No, I
Okay.
don't have it. I don't have anything from NRP. I'm gonna talk to Sheila about just, you guys don't need any of the maintenance and contracts and all that stuff anymore. Let me have all that stuff. All I need is the stuff to be able to pay the bills at this point, because that's all they're supposed to do.
Can we also
I'll
ask,
get it from them. That's not a big deal. And I need to get a new one from them anyway,
Yeah,
because,
because these are all.
well, whoever the signers are on that contract aren't on the board anymore.
Uh-huh. These
Well,
are
then I'll
like
get a new one, then I'll have to get another
2005.
also, do you have someone who does plumbing? Because this is who we've been using, and their license expired as a plumber. Their
Oh,
license
nice.
expired in 2012.
Oh, wow.
Triple
So,
state, huh?
So
Yeah, I've got.
People that do plumbing.
You know, my license expired for about a month too, which apparently I didn't know I was supposed to take a class. So I paid all my fees and then they sent me a thing back and said, no, you can't do that, you have to take a class. Well, you can't just go take a class to qualify to keep a manager license. You have to wait for them to offer the class. So mine actually expired for about 30 days. Don't tell anybody that.
well, this is 2 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, mine is back and reinstated, I promise you. And I'm not your management company yet anyway, so it
So
doesn't
that means that
matter.
we had a
But can we-
plumbing company.
this is the one that-
and
Yeah, I'm not,
maintenance.
unless you really like the companies you're working with, I don't expect I'll be working with any of the companies you used to work with. I don't know Triple State or whatever. I suggested the grounds contractors because they're very good and they're affordable and they're also right down the street.
Yes.
That's the only company I can guarantee you that I'm not going to come in and say, really probably ought to rethink this one. But everybody else who does any repairs or maintenance of any sort around here, I don't see anything, and I apologize if it's rude, but I don't see anything that makes me think somebody out here is doing a really good job on something. You know, I can't fault the cleaning company. Plenty of people have seen them. It doesn't seem like things are dirty, they're just worn out. The cleaning company can't rejuvenate carpet, all they can do is clean it. So I don't expect that as time goes by, that I'm gonna say, yeah, I hope you guys don't mind if I keep using this company that you've been using for a while, because I don't see anybody who deserves it at this point. The towing company probably is doing a good job.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as far as you keep us posted on who you are calling and then.
Yeah, I will let you know I will send you an email and say, hey, I called, AT L'Oreal to go check all the lights. So if you see a guy with a ladder or somebody who's trying to, how do you get on the roofs? Is there a way to get on the roofs? Anybody know how to get on the roof? Besides a ladder or an airplane?
Yeah, there are
I've seen the
ladders.
ladders.
Yes, on the last floor,
Uh-huh.
there is a panel. and access
In the
panel.
ceiling is it only is it every entrance that has a panel?
No, it's only certain
Not every
buildings.
entrance.
So it's probably the
Many of
middle
these
entrance?
buildings, because it's only unite for one roof.
Right.
So I think in ours there is one, right?
Are they usually on one end or the middle?
Yeah, I don't call which one,
Okay, well,
but
fine.
you need only one on each side because all the roof is connected.
All the roofs on each building. So there's
Yeah,
9
like all of
buildings.
this is only one row, it's only one, one thing, ceiling. You don't have to jump from one to one, so you just walk straight.
Isn't there 9 separate buildings?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
9 separate.
So I have to go to 9, but once I get on the roof, I can go the whole roof.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you see somebody, up in the upper levels
Well, not,
going into the crawl space in the attic, then you'll know what it is. How are we doing for roof leaks? I'm sorry, I don't want to, roof leaks. Do we have active roof leaks?
Okay, the people that I talked to today, they didn't have any roof leak, but I
Does
did have one.
Anybody have a roof leak right now?
I did
Yeah.
have one when it rained.
Well,
month ago, a month ago.
So when it's
But
not
it was
raining,
very
you don't
severe, it was very severe, like the
But it was a month
Amazon
ago,
was in
so
my
hopefully
room.
it's been taken care of?
No, my roof is still like,
Oh, but it's
I
not
mean,
leaking?
in my bedroom.
It's not leaking still, but it's...
No, it wasn't leaking. Apparently it was for example, the non-good maintenance of all the leaves, all the
Okay,
leaves.
so the gutter's backed up or something?
Yes, so
Okay.
that would happen.
'Cause
So
I-
that's something that actually, yeah, we should also.
Because
go
one of my first, just sort of going to a higher level, because I'm going to try to get chatted by 8 o'clock or so. I don't mind staying, but I think that's an hour and a half we're probably all going to, heads are going to spin anyway. My thought is, well, I guess we have to talk about how to approach the bigger thing, which is the loan and the $2.5 million worth of projects that are possibly facing you all. So, I mean, right now, I met with a bank, and they said as long as you,
with another bank, which
I
is
know with
not the
another
bank
bank, I don't
that,
even know which bank you all have, but.
because
Main
NRP,
Street.
yeah, said
Main Street
basically
who
that
they
we couldn't
use.
find any other bank that could give us a
Yeah,
loan.
they
And I asked
actually,
him to
Main
look
Street
for
wasn't the
one.
bank for the loan.
No,
What
it
the
was-
bank? There
Oh, right,
another
no, that
bank
was
for
the
the
bank
loan.
from Westbriar.
you actually have an account at a bank called Community Association Bank, which is owned by Mutual of Omaha, which is obviously a humongous company. And I called up my rep, which same rep you probably have, or NRP, and said, this is what we're doing, and it's like, no problem. 15-year loan, 2.5 points over the 15-year treasury. They do a construction loan to start with, which is only about 4.5%, by the way. Construction loan to start with, blah, 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 and repayment and all that. So you can repay it as fast as you can you can't go out and borrow money to pay it back, but you can, if the homeowners pay in, you can pay the loan down. If you have extra money, you can pay the loan down. I'm one of those old school guys that always tries to pay for things that I can afford to pay for before I start thinking about borrowing money from other people. And I don't know I come in and I see the engineer reports on the roofs and I'm going, oh my God, I probably have 50 roof leaks I have to take care of, and there's probably pipes all over the community that have pinhole leaks that are flooding units and making them unlivable, and it doesn't seem like that's really where we are. It seems like we're right next to that, but it doesn't seem like we have to fix everything at once tomorrow, which would involve a $2.5 million loan
Yeah, I remember some
and just a huge
people
amount of disruption.
during previous meetings had very severe leaking problems with the roof. I mean, the lady is not here, but
But they wouldn't have just.
But the thing is
I
that
would
the
be
thing
here
is,
if my roof leaked.
I just feel that the previous management company didn't communicate or didn't get this information from people. So because when I started talking to all these people and I just went through 3 buildings, they didn't even know about NRP or they
Right,
didn't know
that's
that they were taking care of the mice, cockroaches and everything.
Right. Oh, God, I didn't know
And the
about
people
that,
have
too.
to call.
Another one.
So basically, I just feel that we have to go and knock door by door, and I'm not sure if that's a job that you do. You said that you will walk the property once a week, and that's what we really like about it, because we want someone that is on top of every single problem. But if we as the board need to go and knock at doors and just find out what the problems are, and then we can just confirm if there are really not. But I just feel that I personally would like to go and talk to every single person and confirm that they don't have any leak problem, because so many people complain at previous meetings about leaking, and I think you have been here and you have heard about it, that I just don't want to ignore that we don't have any leaking problems.
No, and I didn't,
Or, I mean, that there are no severe, I mean, before
I would have expected if somebody had a severe maintenance problem,
I know.
We have
other
a
than,
hand.
that we would have,
But it's not
that we would have a lot of
raining,
people here
and
saying,
there's
this,
no-
my ceiling's falling in, or my roof is leaking, or
It's
whatever.
not an
Not that you don't
open
have
forum,
one.
though.
Pardon?
It's not an open forum.
Well, I understand, but I would still be here anyway. If my roof was
I'm
leaking,
just saying.
I would
Yeah.
still be
And
here,
we suggest
screaming
that
about the
people-
fact that my roof was leaking. But you're right, it's not the right form. I'm sorry.
Yes, in my unit, we have water leak that's on and off in different areas.
And you're at the top?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
What is your
And
name?
one thing that I know is that after the rain, there's a lot of standing water.
Yes, I'm aware of that too.
When it stops, and you can still see the water running down.
Right.
And when it's a heavy wind, I mean, and that reduces the life expectancy of the roof. I mean, if you have
Right.
standing water.
Well, particularly when we get snow, and the snow will start to build up,
Even worse.
and then it always finds leaks that you didn't even know
We always
existed,
have
that are up on the
problems,
walls and
yeah,
stuff.
we don't get to-
I have, we have information already on the roofing companies. there was some reports done, maybe you put peak roofs on the buildings.
Right.
I don't know if you're interested in doing that. I don't know whether it makes
I
sense.
would just
economically.
like to know what are the benefits of having that other than aesthetic.
Well, it's easier to fix good night. It's easier to fix a peak roof. They're shingles, and you have shingles and gutters, and it pretty much is standard what you see when you're driving around. The flat roofs are sometimes a nightmare because you don't know where the water's coming from. You can have a leak over here that comes in over there. With a flat roof, you can a peak roof, you can look inside and you go, oh yeah, there's a spot here, or I can see a hole, those lights coming through. I don't know, and I'll
Because
talk to.
on the reports, I never saw like a specific like estimated cost
Right.
of what it would be to have that roof instead of a flat roof.
So I have a company that just did a roof for me recently in Columbia Pike, and I'll ask them what their suggestion is. I don't, there are things you need engineers for, there are things you don't need engineers for.
Mm-hmm.
Your roofs probably need an engineer. I mean, it looks like the roof that's on there wasn't the right roof to begin with. Well, maybe the original roof was probably right, but then they came in and put something over it that doesn't seem like the right roof. So I want to make sure that before we replace the roofs, that somebody's looked at it and says, this is exactly how you need to do this, and consider the option of a peak roof. Maybe it makes sense, maybe it's just stupid, I don't know. I've never converted one to the other, but a lot of things apparently I'm going to be doing for the first time, so.
No, I think that makes sense to have an engineer, and so we also know the condition instead of just.
Because
like
what about
serving
this
people
report
for
that
comments.
the NRP is distributing? This is not an engineer.
Is that their roof?
Yeah, have you seen that?
I think I just-
Contractor, roof contractor.
Yeah, I think they're
So
roofing.
this is not an engineer.
Is that
This
the
is
one
not
for?
called. I mean,
No, I've seen the engineer report.
No,
on it.
you have seen probably this one.
Yes, and I thought it was a very good report.
But that's also a contractor, that's not an engineer.
So-
But that's okay, I mean, if this was just if this was a peak roof with shingles on it, I wouldn't talk to an engineer about what we need to do, I would just talk to a roofing contractor. And I know that I would get the bids and I know that we would get a good job, but this is a little trickier because I don't think they're not gonna just put back what you've got, they're gonna have to redo some things. Some of the problems in the engineering report were pretty basic, like you need a cap on a drain, you need to make sure this hatch is closed, I mean, those are kind of basic, but it's just the walls and the membrane roof on there, things like that and I've done that work before, but I just want to make sure that what I would recommend that we put back in there is what we put back in. And I guess I started with the roof because to me, that's always where you start. You start at the top and you work your way down. If you don't fix the roof, you might have a leak in the basement that's actually being caused by a leaky roof. And you spend all your time trying to fix this problem in the basement, which could be the issue they had in the storage room. It might be a leaky roof, or it might be a hole in the wall, it might be anything. But I like to try to eliminate one source of water, and that's a pretty big envelope. If you get all the roofs covered, it covers a lot of stuff, you know. The balconies, to me, is like the next step. If we're having a lot of plumbing problems, then that's clearly an issue, but, so go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
You didn't call me Sheila, did you?
No.
Okay.
Él dice que sería piensa que hay que comenzar
Oh,
con el
stop
techo.
talking is what you meant to say.
Es solamente, ¿alguien necesita traducción en español de aquí? Señoras, ¿alguien necesita traducción en español aquí?
Muchas gracias por preguntar, pero yo creo que sí, para agilizar todo.
Ok,
hay que
solo quiero estar
precisar
segura
eso
que
al
Michelle
principio.
también lo
No,
mira a
no
usted.
necesitamos ni
No
traducción.
necesita.
No.
Ah, no necesita.
Okay, I was, yeah.
No, I know, I just wanted to make sure because
But
since
yes,
you were
that's
not
good,
looking at it.
yeah. Okay.
Other?
Oh,
So what was that?
Can you see
That's what did we just say?
Sorry, I was just asking if they really needed a translation in Spanish because I see that there are 4 Hispanic speaking people there, and I just wanted to confirm that Michelle was translating also for them because she has a very low volume voice. So I just wanted to make sure that they could hear it, but they don't need it. So it's only for
Él dice
clarifying.
que también sería bueno contratar a un ingeniero para revisar el techo.
I'm trying to get an idea of everything.
Priorities and, yeah.
Well, so I'm gonna talk to a roofer, and I'm gonna ask him some questions about the roofs you have. I'm gonna have him come out and take a look at it. I'm gonna have him do a proposal and stuff. I'll have an engineer at some point. We'll obviously talk about this at a regular meeting. I'll have an engineer come out and take a look at it as well, maybe review the proposal from the roofer, and we'll get some more proposals, and then we can move forward with that. You don't have to do all the roofs at one time necessarily.
That's what we-
You have money in the bank. I mean, we can maybe buy a year before you have to even think about a loan. Maybe we have to think about a loan in the springtime. We're certainly not going to borrow money now because nobody wants to be replacing, you can't replace balconies You can't really do roofing. There's a lot of stuff you can't do that we might like to do. So my goal is to sort of hit the high points on the maintenance side, get everything all figured out, and see where your money is and what you have available moving forward. Maybe we can get through this without having to get a
because
loan,
one roof,
but maybe you're gonna have to get a loan. So.
according to this company, like each roof will be $45,000. Just
Now, is that the
this-
peak roof one that you sent to me?
no, this is just
This
a
is
regular
regular-
flat. And
And my concern is that
And
that
it's-
isn't going to be because I've seen proposals for,
Yeah.
well, even $45,000 is almost $500,000.
Mhm.
But I've seen 600. I guess that's pretty close to the same number.
No, I mean per building. Per.
Right, but times 9 is,
Yes, exactly. But saying that the situation, I mean, just what you were saying, that we can do it one by one. We don't have to do them all, depending on of course, of the seriousness of the problem, how severe the problem
Right.
is with such roof. That we have to analyze it.
right. If it does turn out, and I think that we have time to figure out how we're going to do that. We'll let her finish. I think we have time to figure out how we're going to sort of unwrap this thing and make it all work. I don't think we can't do it all now, even if we wanted to. If we wanted to go out and get a loan tomorrow, we wouldn't have any reason to because we don't have any projects that we're going to really be able to work on. But we should be able to get a lot of stuff in place to get ready to start in the spring on whatever projects we think we need to work on. I believe the balconies that I had read were condemned have been repaired. I think there were 2 balconies fixed after that. I don't think all the balconies have been inspected, but at least the ones that I thought had been condemned have been made usable again. So I don't think that's hanging over our heads either. If you decide to get a loan, there's this loan special assessment trade-off that you have. You can have a special assessment that you use in conjunction with the loan, or you can have a loan that you pay back with a special assessment. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do that. If a homeowner can afford, let's just say the special assessments, I'm going to make it huge numbers, we'll say $30,000 per home, just so it's an outrageous number. But there might be a couple of homeowners who can pay the special assessment, and they might get a discount and pay $28,000. But you get 4 or 5 of them to do that, and all of a sudden you've got a good chunk of money that you've got to do the work with. That you don't have to borrow, because you've already brought that money in. So you're only borrowing for what's left of the project. I would never go out and borrow everything I need to do a project without any thought toward the money that I have or what money I could raise in a reasonable amount of time. The loan I think I did $2.5 million at 4.5% for 15 years. It was around $200 a month if everybody had the same par value, which you don't, but for an average size home here, it would be about $200 extra per month for the loan payment. And that's just to pay the loan back. That's not counting any of the other stuff that needs to be done. But I think that's probably the high end of it, though. It's around $200 a month. But that's for 15 years. I don't really know that I don't think that really works out that way. So you got to start rolling numbers around in your head. What might be reasonable if you do have to go the loan route, and then what are the alternatives if we go that route as well?
Yeah. And you don't have a clear idea, a clear report yet of the reserves and the CDs that we have in the banks and
I think you have about $400,000, if I'm not mistaken, just from looking
that's what I was
quickly at the
thinking.
financial statements. But I think you put about $100,000 aside each year as well. And maybe you can do some of this, and I know nobody wants to have a higher condominium fee, but if you could raise the condominium fee 5 or 10% and not have to do special assessment and put all that money into the reserves so that you can do more roofs and you can do more balconies, then if you can buy the time, maybe we can get through this thing without having to.
I mean, that's our goal, or at least my goal with you, since you have the experience already about that, is just to come up with these are the options for you. So
But I don't want anybody to think that we're deferring anything any further. I mean, because if anybody thinks that we're deferring maintenance, then we're not doing our job. The trick is to make sure that the goal is to make sure that everything needs to be fixed is fixed.
Mm-hmm.
That we don't have people living with leaky pipes or leaky roofs or leaking anything, or balconies that they can't use, while we are making sure that we don't have this sort of problem in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's feasible. I wouldn't say it's any better than 50-50, but I think that it's possible that we could make that work out with the budget that you have and moving forward. And you all didn't have a fee increase this year, right?
Not this year.
No.
Okay.
Entonces él estaba hablando de las opciones de préstamo también.
Talk
Otra
about
opción sería de subir un poquito el fondo.
So we, I think the lady had a concern that many people have about parking, and I'm not sure if we have a clear regulation about the parking situation.
Yeah, I still don't know how I can.
I mean, I was looking here at the rules and regulations, but it's nothing.
Are you gonna get towed too?
No, I parked in front of Michelle's.
I know, but there's nothing in writing, so we have to review.
If I need a parking permit, where do I go? Obviously I call Sheila until I need a parking
Yes.
permit.
Yeah.
So then we don't know.
If I have a visitor, do I have a visitor pass already?
Yes. Every single owner has only one sticker that they
Okay.
put in their car,
Which is
plus
reserved.
one
Hang tag.
visitor hand tag.
Or for their second car? Because I'm sure
Right,
that's what
right.
it is. Okay, so you can't really have a visitor unless you only have one car.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Okay, but at least
Is this about
4
parking?
hours later, not 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So until what time will you like?
At least 11, 10.
Can I, because
Like
I
everybody. but
I do
not
this all the
6
time.
o'clock.
The problem is if I have one, even two cars, and I come home from work at 6:30, and I can't find a parking space because there are a bunch of visitors parking here, then I'm not gonna be happy about it. So I think whoever made these rules, and I can't argue whether they're good or bad, I think whoever made them with the right idea. It's that we want residents to be able to come home and find a place to park before we worry about where the visitors are gonna park when they come here. So I'm not arguing against what you're saying. It'd be nice if we never had to tow cars, and you could have visitors anytime you wanted to, but you have to sort of balance it on the side of the residents instead of the
And
visitors.
it was because of the limited number of spaces and the fact that we actually cannot park on the public street. Like,
I really have to have a permit or something now?
We
Parking
used-
on the streets.
they blocked everything.
Everything, so I had to go all the way to Toys R Us to park, and my meetings once a month.
You should join the
I don't
Moose
know
Lodge,
where-
you could park there, I'm
where
sure.
I park.
That's what they were trying to do something about that too. I mean, the previous board said that there could be an option that they could give us that space.
How would you get there from here? Is there a gap through a fence or something? Because I didn't even know the Moose Lodge was there. I took the wrong turn tonight and wound up at the Moose Lodge. I thought it was downtown.
Yeah, and
I
actually.
went, that's
I
Moose
don't know
Lodge in
how that ended up,
Westbriar.
but they proposed that at one point, but they.
It might be possible. They always have a lot of land. Is this parking or,
I'm sorry,
No,
he
it's not
had,
parking.
he
do we
raised his hand.
finish parking? Are we done with parking? And we'll certainly look into your concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two things, maybe, concerns that I see. For far as parking, when I do, if somebody park in my parking spot,
Right.
and they have a number to call, I call that number, and that's like the police office. They should have.
If a car is towed, the number that's posted is the police non-emergency number.
Yeah,
So if you see the signs out here, they should have the police non-emergency
they
number.
should have the towing company.
That's the number you have to call.
You know
We
the,
used to have the towing company on there.
No,
Does it change?
no, you know what, and you're absolutely right, it should, but Fairfax County wants you to have the police non-emergency number.
yeah.
If you are towed. Now, what you should have is a sign inside that says if there's somebody parked in your parking space,
Yeah.
this is the number to
Yeah.
call. Now, you're gonna have to sign for it to say that that person was parked in your space.
Yeah,
But
that's how you.
That's how I would do it. I would have a sign on the inside with the towing company number, but the sign outside has to be the police non-emergency, because the ones outside are the ones who just got towed.
Okay. But that's how it should be, I mean, but that's how it
It
used to be,
yeah.
but now.
No, it's not even.
So a lot of things to deal with going forward. That'll be one of them.
And also
I hope that's the biggest problem too.
the mouse is problem.
Yes.
Could you give us your room, your building number and apartment number?
Do you want tree mice?
3708
We
North
did
Rock.
have we have
3708.
3708.
By the apartment number?
30, apartment number 104.
104 and also mice.
Do you have the complete pest
Well,
control?
what is the extermination contract for you guys? Do you have regular, is it call-in only for roach treatments?
Exactly. I mean, my understanding by last email that I got from Sheila was that basically people, the owner had to call the management company to request this treatment at least once a month.
And
They
then how does
had
the-
that option, but people didn't know about it.
And how's the contractor get in?
The owner has to
They
be
had to
there.
schedule a specific
And then the
time.
issue is that I guess the pest company won't come, and so people were complaining to me they would waste a day, they would take a day off work, and no one would
They
ever
might show up. Yeah, that's gonna be an issue.
Or they get very limited.
Because you need to have access, and if I was the pest control company and I came out and nobody was home, I just wasted a trip. And they don't get paid a lot of money to treat the roaches when they come out. They do 10 at once. They get like $10 a piece. So it's not like they're making, you know, enough money to drive here and then have to go home. And I'm sorry, but we don't, most communities I manage, we don't treat anything other, we treat cockroaches because everybody has problems. If you have a problem with cockroaches, I have a problem with cockroaches.
Right.
That's how it works.
Yes.
We do that as part of for the community, but we don't treat mice.
This one has a specific.
The homeowner, now we
have a
treat the
big
mice.
problem with that.
We treat the mice in the common area, and we make sure that the mice. If we don't have any mice in the common area, you shouldn't have mice in your home, and we leave it up to the homeowner to take care of the mice.
No,
It's
there
some
is-
problem that a
yes.
lot of people have mice in
Well,
there.
yeah, we would
Yes.
have.
Right, I guess you got to get past that before we can go
That's
to the
it.
other solid. Before you can go back to not having mice included as part of the extermination.
So
contract.
yeah, so we have to work on a plan, a better, more organized plan where we can really get inside the units and try to find out what the problem is.
It's gonna
Maybe
be-
Yeah,
set
they
up a
came
deal
from
where
outside.
the
I'm sorry?
exterminators
They
treat.
came from outside.
Oh, I'm sure the mice didn't just, well, the cockroaches come from outside too, so, I mean, but we don't generally treat for more than just cockroaches. And I'm surprised you didn't even offer that here, because you don't have anybody on site, you don't have access to keys. It doesn't sound like it's a program that's gonna be very
But it's
effective.
such a severe, it's
For both,
very,
for
very
both, I'm
important
sure
problem.
cockroaches and mice are both a problem,
Mice.
because nobody, I don't know how you'd hardly ever be able to get your house treated for cockroaches either. Because you gotta know to call, and your neighbor probably doesn't know.
And there are specific buildings also with bed bugs problems.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Bed
Yeah,
bugs.
yeah, there've been a
Bed
couple of those.
and especially there
And
are
we don't
some
treat-
units that are empty.
No, we definitely don't treat
and
bed
have
bugs.
bed bugs.
Now, bed bugs come in from the outside also, but we don't ever treat for bed bugs.
I think that's for the private owner to do.
Now, we would inspect and then require you to treat, but we would never treat them.
There might be a good case to be made for just having some plan in the near future to have an extermination company come out building by building, notice all the people in the building,
Yes.
to have someone available on whatever
Yeah.
days they're gonna be out.
That
So
would be a
we
great
know that we
idea.
get
They've done that.
everything
They
treated.
did that
Nice.
before, but I don't think it worked out very
It
well
didn't
because
work.
they kept saying, oh, people were not at their houses, and I don't know if it was a lack of communication or running up a good schedule, a nice table, very clear, that
Right.
everyone gives so many notices that nobody could miss. But
Well, you have 9 buildings, so it works out well with a building at a time. And I usually, a floor at a time, a building at a time, an entrance at a time, whatever divides nicely into that. And you really have to do the whole building. You don't want to treat 10 out of 12 homes in a building because the 2 that you didn't treat might be the ones that are infesting everyone else. It goes for mice and for bed bugs and for cockroaches. So, and I'm sorry,
Okay, 2 things. One is there are some abandoned units.
Apartments, yeah.
So like 3710 has a lot of issue with mice. I know that my neighbors were complaining. I don't have a problem, I have a cat and that's not an issue. But my thing is the construction, is it including the repair or the placement of new French windows and windows?
right, that's what they wanted to include in the renovation.
I
they
have a problem.
didn't include it there, did they?
It was included.
Well, it was included in
Was
the,
that one of the line items? Oh, that's good if it was. I think you need to replace the windows. I
Yes,
think that'd be
absolutely.
I think that'd be a fantastic thing to do.
the situation is that here, for example, I did pay like $6,000 from my pocket to replace my windows.
Oh, really?
So, and I have a few more people that have also done that.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure, I just want to make sure that there is a plan so that people that had already paid this amount don't have to go through this process and like doing this whole renovation, including everything, basically didn't allow people to just opt out on that specific
Well,
option.
the windows, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, there is a procedure that we could go through to do that, where people could opt out of it if they had improved their windows within a certain period of time. And then that portion of whatever the assessment would be, they wouldn't have to pay for it. There is a procedure for that loosely defined in the bylaws, so.
Exactly, and that's what they mentioned also.
You're a
the
better
previous one.
mathematician than me to be
So,
able to
the
pull
only
that
thing
out.
is-
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, it would be hard to figure out, but,
It sounds good in theory.
Yeah,
practice.
exactly.
The only thing is we'd have to change our bylaws, because when my husband and me changed out our sliding glass door windows, we were told because the bylaws say it's the owner's responsibility, we had to do it ourselves.
Well, I
So we
believe,
spent
in my reading, and I've I'm not even officially the management company yet, but in my reading, I believe the windows belong to the association. But the glass and the maintenance of the windows belongs to the homeowner. So as long as, if you break your glass, you have to fix it, no matter how it gets broken. But once the windows all need to be replaced, then it's the association's responsibility to replace them. And I'll double check, obviously, before we get to that point. But, and, you know, and there's two ways of looking at people who've already done the windows. One is we can try to accommodate them and make that all work out. And the other one is that it shouldn't have, you know, it was a association element to begin with, and the work shouldn't have been done. You clearly benefited from it for many years you've had them. And we're not doing windows, you know, tomorrow by any stretch. So, but it's something we need to make sure we know going forward whether they are in fact the association's responsibility. I think sliding glass doors might be treated differently. You have a whole maintenance
Definitely, yes.
responsibility sheet. But my reading was that the windows were.
I think that's right, yeah.
The windows were the association's responsibility, but the glass was the homeowner's responsibility.
But usually when you want to change it out, like we change the framing of the glass. to-
Well, if you break the glass, then you replace the glass. If you want to replace the whole window, then you need to get all 105 other homeowners to agree that we need to replace all the windows. That would be the next, or you decide, or you get approval from the board of directors to replace your windows based on some specifications that are approved for the association, which would be
Yeah, that's
a decent way
Show
to
the
go.
specs, yes, and then the owner.
I would love, I mean, that to me, that's like the one thing that makes just the biggest difference in a community. If you were gonna do a loan to get all this work done, the first thing I want to do is replace all the windows. Because then everybody's like, oh my, I've got this beautiful new window, at least I got something. You know, I've got something tangible, I've got a warmer home, I've got a quieter home. You know, if you replace roofs and pipes and asphalt and pull white coats, you know, I don't, that doesn't make my life it doesn't make my life any better. It makes my home more valuable, theoretically. But it really is just making up for 40 years of maintenance that should have been taken care of over the last 40 years instead of all at once at one big expense. Armstrong, I guess, was here before Value, but whoever the management company's been for the last 20 years ought to have their license taken away. And I don't mean to be ugly to anybody, but there's just so much that wasn't done that needed to be done. And there was money, there should have been enough money to do the things that needed to be done, and they just seem to have ignored it all. So, and you all have inherited the problems that they've created by their negligence. So.
I also wanted to mention the fact that one of, I think, the weaknesses that we have, or the problems we have had, was the lack of communication. And I'm just trying to see if you have any suggestions as far as website, when everyone can see the minutes, where everyone can actually have some access to this type of information. Has that worked in the past? Have you ever used a website?
I've got
or a
several
blog
communities with websites, and I don't have any communities that have what I would call a successful website. About one out of every 50 homeowners will go and look for something that they need to find on the website. And inevitably, they'll call me and say, I was looking for this on the website and I couldn't find it. And I'll say, no problem, I'll send you a copy. It's easier to get stuff from me than it is to go, just send me an email, send me a copy of the bylaws, and I email you back a copy of the bylaws. The minutes, your biggest problem is there isn't anybody here. And it's not really fair to rely on you all to disseminate all this information and translate everything and all the other things that you have to do, but I'm not going to be out here to do that either, because that's not really the management's responsibility. It's normally an employee's responsibilities. You don't have one of those. So I think we're just going to have to try to make do with what we have and do the best we can. You all do a good job of translating things and trying to make sure everybody at least has a general idea what's going on. And I mean, just translating stuff, but how many people still don't know about NRP or the new management company? With all the things that seem to be going on, you'd think everybody would know about that, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I think that as far as
You have to knock on every door to tell
very
people.
responsive. Maybe we're gonna just.
It would be nice to have. It'd be nice to have a one-page newsletter, maybe front and back, fairly large type, maybe English on the front and Spanish on the back. But once every couple of months or so, just let people know where things are. And if you want to read them, you read them, and if you don't want to read them, you don't. I mean, that's.
Do you have any Spanish-speaking people as far as your staff?
Yeah.
If someone calls for a service call, they just have to speak English.
Willie, who's the fellow that I hope to do service calls, speaks Spanish.
Okay. So there is only one number for any questions, any concerns. It's just one number.
It's one number with 4 other numbers attached to it.
Okay.
So if you call my office right now, it would say, you've reached East Coast Management, office hours are, blah, blah, blah. If you have an emergency, leave a message at the tone. wait quietly, and then it'll beep, and then you follow the instructions. And then you just leave that and my phone buzzes, and I get to call you back.
Okay.
Will it be posted?
Yeah, and I'm gonna send out an introduction letter, and we'll have it all posted up here too.
Okay.
And I hope to have contractor numbers that you could call. I haven't been able to work that out yet, but
Right.
the problem with that is if it's a plumbing issue and you think it's our problem, but it might be your problem, then how do we, who pays the bill? But I can generally filter most of the stuff that goes through the emergency stuff, and then get the right person to come out and take care of it. There's going to be some miscommunications. There's going to be some growing pains. We're not going to do everything perfectly for the next couple of months. We'll get up to speed. We'll fix the things we can fix as far as the systems go. And if you have suggestions on how to make things better, that'd be great. I've been having more and more communities that have been doing stuff on Facebook, but I don't have time to sit down and you can use it as a one-way communication. You can post notices on Facebook that let people know what's going on and not give them the opportunity to make